Roby's workshop. We're still working on those nightstands, and today we've got the top, the bottom, and a little bit of assembly in between. So come on inside, nothing happens out here. A set of nightstands. Episode 4, the top, the bottom, and something in between. So I think we've gotten all the little tasks out of the way. We can refocus back on our bottom shelf at this point. I have reassembled things and they look pretty much like they did the last time. Everything's looking good, but we need to take this bottom shelf. I need to get 1 inch square before I try to cut it to length. We'll get that square edge on the table saw using the miter fence. Well, my top panel here and my stretcher down there are lined out, and I've got my bottom shelf flush with that surface. Now, when this shelf is installed, just like over here with this through tenon, I want 1/4 inch proud. Both sides, that's 1/2 inch. So when I come over here to this side, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch off that way, and then it's back to the table saw for that second cut. Well, I've checked my blade position, and I have put a stop on the end of my miter fence. That will keep the piece from wandering as I make the cut. I'm pretty much centered there. This looks real good. I'm about a 32nd shy on the length, so I'm not going to sweat that too much. You'll also notice I've turned the whole thing over. I still have my clamps right here, and everything is really, really tight. So I am not going to cut this according to what the drawing would tell me. I'm going to cut it according to what my nightstand is telling me. That way, if I were to be a little bit too long this way or a little too short this way, all those joints are going to open up accordingly, and I don't want that. So this is one of those times where, put the drawing aside, a pencil will tell you more about where you need to be to make this cut. Now, I don't need anything on the outsides. All I need is on the inside. I don't mind telling you that getting these tenons cut to length and thickness is going to be a tedious process. It's just going to be a lot of trial and error. And we're going to minimize the error by sneaking up on this. So yes, the first cut is not going to be big enough. Second one neither. It'll probably take 3 or 4 to home in on this. Now my setup, I've got my dado blade in the saw. My fence is pulled up tight, but for where I am, I don't need a sacrificial fence on this because I'm going to be cutting these in passes. Now, first thing we want to do is get the length right. We will not cut to depth. That's going to come second. So come around over here. Let me show you what we got going on. This is a deep rabbet, so I have 2 stops, my fence and my miter gauge. And there's a sequence to making this cut such that we don't get kickback. We keep the gap between the fence and the piece for the first cut with the pressure on the miter gauge, and then we'll turn it around and make the cut on the other side. For this cut, we have not engaged the fence, so there is no real danger of kickback. All we're doing is making a standard rabbet. Second piece might get your attention. We've got a long piece and we're pushing against the fence with a push pad. However, it's still a rabbet. We've made the first cut and there's nothing to pinch on the other side of the blade. This is a safe way to make a cut like this as long as you do it in the right order. But we hit our marks. Well, not really. We are square and even in there. My marks are kind of pencil sloppy, and I expected they would be if you're reaching up under there trying to make them. That's why we wanted to do the multiple passes, and it paid off. I've got a good tight fit here, but we're not cut to depth, and that is where the second part of this comes in. We do have some scrap here, and that scrap is important because we're going to pick up our miter gauge right here, and now we start raising the blade. We'll move it through one pass, turn it over, move it through again. Now, we are only going to get the tip of this, and here's a couple of reasons for that. One, we're going to end up going back to my crosscut saw, and we're going to end up cutting a lot of these off to make more pieces as we go, especially if we raise the blade too high. We literally have to start over. So the part of this process is take some scrap that actually came from your board, and then you can make your tenons, raising the blade ever so slightly and going back to your piece to check.
At the end of the day, we didn't get it on the first pass. We didn't get it on the second pass. But by the time we got to the third pass, we were getting close. And yes, 3 times is the charm.
Our depth is cut, and we're in good shape on that. It's time to go ahead and attack this piece. Now, we've got 4 cuts to make. 2 on this side, which we've already started, and 2 on the other. Now, order of this cut is important. My miter fence is set up right here. We make the first cut against that stop. That is a must. You cannot start with your cut against the fence. The reason is, if you have that little bit in between the fence and the blade, and you get a little off, that's a kickback situation. So keep the order in mind.
This is important, and it was worth saying twice. Follow this cutting sequence, and you'll be fine.
Well, these came out fantastic. No complaints at all. But I haven't made the shoulder cuts yet. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to start that with Japanese pull saw. This will help keep any chip out when I do take it to the power tools. I've been at the miter station, and I have cut this piece of scrap so that it fits exactly in that slot right there, right into the mortise. Now, when we're looking at this tenon, that's kind of what we've got to deal with. We want the same amount on each side. Now, I have not moved my fence on the table saw, so I know that this is going to cut the same. But we're going to raise the blade and sneak up on it. Come on over there. Let me show you what we got going on. I've put an auxiliary fence on my miter gauge, and that's to give me something to hold on to, because this is what's happening. We're going to be pushing the piece through the blade, and we're going to start with one, do a little nibble here, and then the fence, which has not been moved, is what we'll push up to make the cut right on the hip. Now, with our pull saw, we gone ahead and tried to score that, so we guaranteed no chip out. But we will take this slow. I have this gauge right here. I will be looking at this. I'm going to make a couple of marks. We're going to sneak up on this just a little at a time. I don't want to overshoot this cut.
We're following the same cutting procedure, and I would recommend that. Just keep that in muscle memory. Also note that we are not nearly as deep as we need to be. I really do want to see how this cut behaves before I commit to the full depth.
I didn't like the way this came out on the table saw. You couldn't see it, but I was getting chip out on the other side. And I want this through tenon to be nice and square on top, not with some divot taken out of it. So we're going to go back to the pull saw. I've made my marks, and we're going to go ahead and cut right down the center. The tenons get a chamfer on the ends, and we don't have much to play with. They're only 1/4 of an inch thick. So I've taken my blade and turned it to 45 degrees. I have a sacrificial fence here, and we're just going to push it through. Now, right now, I am just kissing it. We're going to sneak up on this. Now, these tenons, they're centered in this shelf material here. So we'll push it through, turn it over, and push it through again. Each time looking very closely on how much room we've got. Now, the ends, we'll just sand those.
We've got the same situation we had before. This is a non-kickback cut, so using a push block is perfectly acceptable against the fence in this case.
If there's a reality in a woodworking shop, it's sanding. I'm looking at these, they look great, but I see what I call woodworking grime on them, a few glue spots. So we're going to clean that up with some sanding, and we're going to get after that bottom shelf, because that really is straight off the machines. It's time for a little assembly, and this one's going to be complicated. I've got 2 large pieces right here, and I've got a bottom shelf, I've got the back, and I've got 2 pieces up front that go above and below the drawer. All those are mortise and tenon joints. I've got 8 of them to maneuver at the same time as these panels come together. So the only way I really know how to do this is just to start. I'll put highlights in, and we'll take it from there.
The bottom shelf has through tenons, and getting glue on the end grain of a through tenon is a real catastrophe. We'll never get it out, and it'll destroy your finish. So we keep the glue toward the shoulder. Assembly is simple if we cut it right. And note, I did not glue the mortise. If we glue the mortise, we stand a chance of getting glue on the end of that tenon. Fortunately, that's the only through tenon. Everything else is going to be a little bit simpler. So we get the glue applied and then start piecing it together. At this point, we're just trying to get things to line up. Everything else should slide into place. And a little persuasion helps drive everything home. Take the piece and turn it over. It's time to add some clamps and give it a little time to cook.
We'll clean that up here a little while. Time to get this on a level surface.
Did I tell you it was heavy?
Well, about the last thing to do on these at this point is the corbels, and we're going to put these in place just like that. This is what those slots are for. A little bit of glue, a couple of clamps, and we're in good shape. Well, let's get back to the top. We got to cut it to width and to the length. Now on the width, I'm about 3/8 strong, and this is an easy cut. We'll do that one first. Now, evaluate your piece when you do that. This side looks really good to me. Over here, I've got a bit of sapwood, so it's real easy. We'll just butt it up over here and cut it at 20.
This cut is about as simple as it gets, and it gets simpler still with those rollers I've got. Those keep the wood pressed hard against the fence, and I have noticed my cuts have improved greatly since I installed those. That's one of the few items I have on my saw that I think is a marked improvement.
I'm getting set up with my panel cutting saw. This is to cut the one edge on here. I'll cut the other side on the table saw, and I'm fine with that. The big trick here is to check both sides of your piece. I've got a check on that side that I want to get rid of. I'm long, I'll get there, but if you don't look, you don't know.
Our first two cuts are parallel. They were made on the table saw. This one needs to be perpendicular. That's what keeps the piece square. Now the other side we'll make on the table saw, and that one will be perpendicular to this one. But if it's not square, your tabletop's not square. This is a cut I don't like to make. The aspect ratios just aren't right for this one. I've pulled the back roller guide a little bit closer to me. That way it will engage earlier, making the cut safer.
We are in the clamps and we're cooking. And with that, I think we're going to call this episode. We've gotten a lot done. We have completed the case assembly. Yes, the top isn't on, but that's a relatively minor thing, and we'll do that here in a bit. But the next episode, we're going to be focusing on drawers. So if you like what you've seen here, give me a like and subscribe. And I hope to see you next time in Roby's workshop.